Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer for Kentucky Derby Prep Recap, and we're going to take a look back at the biggest upset in Wood Memorial history. Let's take a peek at the 2021 Wood Memorial. We break from the gate. Todd Pletcher is 72-1 with the number 3 Bourbonic. Kendrick Carmouche is just going to let the pace go.
Yeah, he's going to take this horse back to last, hope to get lucky. He does get lucky with a very, very big price for a Pletcher-trained 3-year-old.
Meanwhile, up front, the number 9, Market Maven, able to clear to the lead and the rail from his far outside post. Market Maven, he was 70-1 in this race, but he actually finished ahead of Bourbonic in their most recent outing at Parks. He's up front right now. It looks like Weyburn, the winner of the Gotham, the number 8, is in a very nice spot in second, as is the then undefeated Prevalence.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Weyburn gets a good trip in this race, tracking a horse who really didn't feel like he had much of a chance in here. I guess ultimately, Dan, this race went to closers. I still don't think it's a very big excuse for Weyburn, who all in all didn't run poorly at all in this race.
No, he didn't. He was up close to the pace. You're right. I think the closers did very well. You see the winner still lagging back at the back of the field. Market Maven is in front. Weyburn is comfortable in second. Prevalence, Mike, in mid-pack. This was kind of the test from a distance standpoint, from a class standpoint. I think it might have been a case of too much too soon.
Yeah, listen, they were testing him a little bit here. He took a lot of money in this race. You can see him right here, Dan, on the second turn. He's already being asked just to keep up with the leaders. He's just never going to be a real threat through the stretch of this race. He wasn't good enough to beat this field. He still has a big distance question to answer. He's a talented horse. This was just a tough spot for him.
You can put a blanket on them all turning into the stretch, Mike, and Weyburn had a short lead. Here comes Dynamic One, the, quote, other Pletcher horse. He makes the front, and now on the outside is Crowded Trade. Crowded Trade for the second consecutive race had momentum and didn't finish it off.
Yeah, he was at the back of the pack with the 1-2 finishers in here. Dan, he runs fine. You can see him. He's not really finding at the end. Dynamic One was widest throughout the running of this race, took over at about mid-stretch. He ran fine. He could not hold off the big long shot.
Bourbonic closing from last to win at 72-1. You take Pletcher on top of Pletcher on top of Brown. Your 50-cent trifecta pays over $1,700. Where did this race come from for Bourbonic, Mike? A horse that was in for a $50,000 maiden claiming tag in order to win his maiden in his final start as a 2-year-old. He was beaten at Parks again by Market Maven leading up to this race. Where did this race come from?
I don't know that it came from anywhere, Dad. He found, a field of horses in the Wood Memorial who I guess you could say some of them, certainly the shorter prices, didn't show up with their best race. And, this horse, at the end of the day, he got a great ride from Kendrick Carmouche. He let this horse fall out the back like you knew he was going to. He saved all the ground, and then he just wanted to see what would happen through the stretch. And what happened through the stretch? He got a big hole to run through, and he came running at a bunch of horses who didn't finish the deal.
Let's talk about the beaten favorite in this race, Risk Taking, who coming into the race appeared that 1 1/8 was exactly what he wanted. He just seemed flat in the spot, and his Kentucky Derby dreams take a big blow.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they press on with him, Dan. I can't sit here and say that I would love him if they go to the Derby with him. On the other hand, he's maybe the horse in this race that I'd be willing to give one more chance to. They took him back early. To me, he just looked like he got maybe a little bit headstrong. Didn't really want to settle. In his prior 2 9-furlong races, Dan, he seemed really handy, settled very nicely, made a run through the stretch. That wasn't the case here. I thought he got a little bit headstrong early, very flat through the stretch. He was disappointing in here, but maybe he can bounce back.
Thoughts on Brooklyn Strong's performance? This was his first start since he won the Remsen. It is a long layoff, and the distance of 1 1/8 extremely demanding off a layoff. He was down inside throughout. It looked like he was briefly in behind horses turning for home, and then just was sort of one paced in the stretch as a horse that might have needed the race.
Yeah, another horse that I don't think I would be too hard on, Dan. Listen, this race kind of fell apart at the end, and a big long shot won it, so Brooklyn Strong doesn't have a huge excuse, but he was down inside all the way, as you mentioned, briefly sort of in behind horses, maybe in a little bit tight. I don't think he had a huge excuse, but you know what? Once they committed to the rail, he had no choice but to stay down there. I thought he was racing on okay at the end of the race.
Candyman Rocket, the Sam F. Davis winner, second consecutive race in which he just did not do anything in the stretch. This is a horse that might need a break, and I think he definitely needs a cutback in distance.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe just cut him back and see what happens as a sprinter with this horse, because his last 2 races are not good.
Let's take a look at the horse card for Bourbonic. He has a very nice pedigree, and he's starting to live up to it. He is a Calumet Farm homebred. He is a son of Bernardini. This is a very active family. His half-brother, Avant Garde, just finished third in the Godolphin Mile. That race coming on the heels of a second-place finish in the Gulfstream Park Mile. The dam won the Grade 2 Delaware Oaks. You really don't worry about pedigree with this horse as it pertains to the Kentucky Derby. He only earned an 89 Beyer speed figure for this race. He's likely going to be a deserving long shot the first Saturday in May.
Yeah, he's not going to get a lot of respect in Kentucky if he shows up for the Derby. So we'll see if he can get lucky twice, Dan. You know what they're going to do with him? I would guess they'll just take him back again and try to make one run. He's now won 3 out of his last 4 starts.
As we take a look at the prices for the Wood Memorial, Dynamic One I want to talk about because I know you like this horse a little bit in here, Mike. He was a bit dirtied up coming into the race. I thought he ran just fine. Again, he's going to be a bit on the slow side if they do run him in the Derby, but do you think he has a bit of an upset chance for Todd?
I mean, he's going to have to improve again. Obviously, this was not a very fast Wood Memorial. It's hard to get too excited about him, Dan. Even if he did take a step forward in this race, and he did, it's hard to get too excited about him getting run down by Bourbonic. Listen, he ran fine in this race. Again, he was wide throughout the running. Distance is no problem for this horse. He's bred to run all day long. He's going to have to take another step forward if they go to Kentucky for the Derby, but who's to say he can't do it?
The lightly raced crowded trade, similar situation, will have to improve if he does run in the Kentucky Derby after being run down by this big long shot. Is there anyone in this race that you would consider in the Derby right now? I mean, it just seems like the waters get a lot deeper.
They do. On the other hand, who's the horse that really stands out right now in this 3-year-old crop with Life is Good gone? It doesn't really seem like anybody towers over the competition here. So listen, horses are going to show up in that Derby first Saturday, May at big prices, and who's to say they can't win?
Todd Pletcher runs 1-2. Bourbonic Dynamic One, $146.50 is what Bourbonic paid. The biggest upset in Wood Memorial history. On to Churchill.